Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we are going to talk about some insight on how high school athletic directors get students to go on to college at the college level. So my guest today is Ken Mason. He's the teacher and athletic director at Lawrence High School, retired teacher and athletic director at Lawrence High School. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, no problem. So usually I start my guests, where did they go to college? So where did you go to school?
Okay, well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I went to high school in Neshaminy High, and then I went to Bucks County Community College over in Newtown for 2 years. I got a liberal studies degree there, and then I got into the Trenton State. I still call it Trenton State College. I know it's a college in New Jersey now,
Yeah.
but that's where I got my undergrad in health and phys ed. So I came out of there, and I was a teacher. Health and physical education in Hamilton Township Public Schools, and coached, obviously. That's where I grew up, cutting my teeth, coaching many sports in the Hamilton schools. I was there, actually I went there for 18 years, and then at the end of my career is when I went to grad school at Rider.
Wow.
And that's where I got my administrative degree. Actually, I wanted to be a principal in the schools. But then when I came out, and where I was at Hamilton High School, my mentor, who was basically the athletic director there, who hired me to coach, became a vice principal, and then the athletic job opened up there.
Wow.
Yeah, so I ended up getting that, and then he left to be Steinert's principal. And things just changed, and I guess I was there for 3.5 years as the athletic director, and then I left to go to Lawrence Township Public Schools.
Gotcha.
So that's how that career went.
So let's go back into the college career, because that's what the show is about, is the secrets of college and how they plan to go on to college. Basically, your high school career in Pennsylvania, why did you start out at a 2-year community college and then end up at a 4-year college? Is that something that back then that's what a lot of kids did?
Yeah, I think part of the career decision on my part was I think I was a little immature in high school. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and yeah, a lot of kids over at Neshaminy, which is in Langhorne, who really didn't go away to college. That's what we did. We went to 2-year community college. That way you could get a job and pay some bills and live at home.
Yeah.
So I think that trend is starting to continue a little bit more in this area.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the athletes that I know that get out of high school now, not sure what they want to do, or due to financial constraints, and knowing a lot of people right now at Mercer Community College. It's not a bad option, because if you get your grades up, that's the other thing. I struggle a little bit with my grades in high school. That gives you a chance to pull everything up. And then those 2-year schools, they transfer everything.
Wow.
Just about every credit will transfer to a 4-year school.
Yeah.
And it just made sense for me. And now I think you see a lot of kids doing the same thing. Like I know in dealing with some of these colleges, if you don't have your SATs in order and you don't have your GPAs up, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, it's not a race in life. So maybe, that's why a lot of kids are doing that, going 2-year. The downside is sometimes the 2-year school doesn't offer all the sports if the kid wants to play.
So now, how do you pick TCNJ or Trenton State back then?
Right.
From a 2-year school, how does one pick that particular school out of that?
Yeah, I think you have to work with your coach, or your parents have to be involved, or a counselor or anybody at the school.
Because you played a sport.
I was playing soccer. So, you want to, that can be a little tricky, especially if you're going to go to a community college, because then you're going to lose all that 4-year school's interest at that time that might have been recruiting you or saw you play. So I think you have to work, you can talk to the community college, talk to the coaches there. I know Mercer does a good job of coming into Lawrence. They came into Lawrence just like some of the other colleges did, and would actively go after the kids that they thought could help them in their program. I know Ryan Zagorski, who's a Hamilton kid, is the softball coach there, and he did a nice job of coming in and evaluating the kids, and he would even give them a little bit of money if they qualified to go to Mercer.
Right. Money meaning awarded from the school.
Correct.
Not money that he just gives
No,
kids.
no, definitely not. Right. He had some scholarship money available.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're at Trenton State and TCNJ. You graduate. How do you parlay that into going into coaching? You took up
Health and phys ed.
Health and phys ed. So is that just something that you veer into as soon as you graduate? That you go into teaching?
Back at Trenton State, back in the 80s when I went there, they had I think it was the #1 health and physical education program in the state. At that time, definitely. I know Montclair was strong. It was Glassboro at the time. Now it's Rowan, because they were all the schools that were in our conference. But they did a great job in the department of getting you a co-op or a practicum in a school locally. So I know I worked at Ewing. I went to a couple of middle schools in Ewing and an elementary school, and they would help you get started with your teaching. And that kind of led into the coaching, because once you did get a teaching job, I was lucky I got out and I got one in Hamilton teaching elementary school. But once you get involved, then that's how, if you're interested to be a coach, and that holds true today, there's still many coaching positions that just don't get filled.
Wow.
Or they get filled last minute, or they get filled by parents or volunteers, and
that's just a dilemma in the high schools everywhere?
Yeah, I just think coaching in general, whether it be, sportsmanship issues, or, coaches are afraid of some of the parents, how they can perceive things. Some of them don't want to get involved in it. Yeah, back when, I think it was part of when we got the job, you had to coach. Now you can't do that. If you sign a contract to be a public school teacher, they can't make you coach.
Gotcha.
I think they do involve you. At Lawrence they do. They try to find your background to see if you are interested to coach, but they can't hold a teaching job if you're not interested to coach.
Right.
You got to be a teacher. All good coaches obviously are very good teachers. But to be a coach, especially a head coach anymore, you have to have a lot of time. A high school football coach, in my opinion, it's a full-time job.
Wow.
They really probably should have a reduced teaching load, because I just know going through the
How many hours does a high school coach for football, how many hours is it taking per week?
If they're doing the job the way it should be done, with preparation, getting all your lesson plans in order for practice, I'm going to say they should be putting in a couple hours each day of preparation.
Wow.
To do it right. I know Rob Radis, who recently coached with me when I was at Lawrence, and we had that state final run all the way against Hopewell Valley. He was constantly meeting with his coaches, even after practice, prepping, getting their plans ready for the next day. Or all summer, he'd be in there tweaking the plans, going online, getting videos together.
Plus, he's a teacher at the school, trying to keep his lesson plans.
That's my point.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very, and now you're seeing, especially now that I'm involved a little bit in the private side of things, you can see how most head coaches, now I'm talking private, they are not teachers. They're just full-time coaches.
Wow.
They might be involved in the guidance department, which is a good thing, because when you get all those college coaches coming to visit, if a teacher's teaching class, you're not going to be able to interrupt the class to talk to the college coach.
Right.
Whereas a counselor, not saying they don't have a heavy workload, they do, but I think they can coordinate their time a little better and meet with the coach, or they might be in charge of discipline in the school, but they have really, like I know Bosco, Berg, and all the big schools, those head coaches, they're not teaching.
Yeah.
They're coaching full time.
Yeah.
And maybe something else part time.
So now you coach for 18 years, you said?
Yeah, at Hamilton, yeah, I coached just about the whole time I was there.
Wow. So how does one get into from coaching into becoming an athletic director? Do you have to go for your master's?
Yeah, yes, you do. You have to get a master's in supervision. You don't have to get the principal certificate, but I did get that. But yeah, you have to have a certificate in supervision.
Okay.
So that's, at the time, I think it was 36 post-grad credits I had to get. I'm not sure what it is now. I think Ryder added on 6 more. It might be 42.
Wow.
So yeah, I was lucky at the time when I was in Hamilton. They had a program where you could apply and they would pay for some of it as long as you stayed at the school. I even had a sabbatical one year. I think I got one of the last sabbaticals ever where they paid for me to go to school full time.
Wow.
And then, they gave me some release time. I wasn't even teaching at Hamilton at the time. I was just a full-time student at Ryder.
Wow.
So that was a good incentive. That's
Yeah.
why, people went back and got it.
Sure.
And then you had to guarantee them you would stay in the district for 2 or 3 years before if something came up and you left.
Right.
Which is what happened for me. But I was.
Well, you can end up at the school that you
Oh,
were
yeah.
at if the athletic director ended up leaving at that particular time.
Right.
Right. But in your case, it didn't, and you had another athletic director's position somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of, and this is why you don't get a lot of younger kids to get involved. I try to talk to some of my coaches at Lawrence, who I thought would be good, effective athletic administrators, to get involved. But a lot of them had young families and things like that. And the thing with athletic administration, which a lot of people don't really understand, Lawrence, between the middle school and the high school, we had 55 teams. So that's 55 schedules, that's 55 uniforms, 55 buses, all officials involved. You have night games, you got Saturday games. So you have to be very good at time management, and you have to, also be good with yourself, because if you're out every night and you're burning the candle on both ends, we do see, I'm involved with the state now with the athletic directors, and you see a high burnout rate in the profession.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think scares away some of these younger ones who have younger kids at home, and if they're not home with the wife and the kids, that can be tough.
When is an optimal age for an athletic director? 30, 40?
You see all kinds, I don't know what the optimal age is. There's probably a varying, age across the state. I've gotten to know quite a few across the state being involved at the state level. It's hard. I don't know what the divorce rate is for some of these guys, but I think the family management is definitely, if you don't have a wife, understanding girlfriend, or significant other that understands the workload, you're going to have a problem juggling that job. So that's why you see some people get into it that maybe were a vice principal, and they go home at 4 o'clock every day. They get into it and they just don't last. So I don't know if you can put an age on it. You don't see a lot of young kids get into it, which I think should change, because you can't really go to school just to be an athletic director.
Yeah.
I mean, getting back to your question.
Yeah.
I went to be a principal, and the certificate that I got was more geared towards that. So what the state's trying to do now, a lot of other states in the country they have what's called a certificate for a certified athletic administrator. With that certificate through the National Federation, you'll get training and courses that'll help you dealing with difficult people, dealing with budgets, dealing with officials, dealing with parents, dealing with sportsmanship issues or ineligible kids. So these programs that they're putting together, it's not mandatory for the state that you take it, but other states did make it mandated. I think New Jersey, if they move to do that, would help get more qualified administrators in it, because there's not a lot of mentors out there to help them. So if, this is kind of nomadic to be an athletic director. You're kind of on your own.
Now, is it the same time constraints for an assistant vice principal or principal of a school? Is there a wide variety of hours that that you're taking, even at that level?
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the other trend that you're seeing now with budgets and issues in the school. They're starting to create two-tiered jobs. So they'll have a vice principal / athletic director. So the problems with that is, when I was the athletic director, you wouldn't have to be there at 7 in the morning, getting the buses unloaded and making sure the hallways were safe as the kids come in to go to school. But if you're a vice principal / AD, they're going to want you there in the morning because you're going to be, checking in teachers, lesson plans, and making sure everything's, going smoothly in the school. Then, as the day goes on, you got to get into the athletic piece. So now your day, when normally I think the vice principals and principals, they're not out every night because, I know they have their plays and things like that, but that's not every day there's a sporting event.
Right.
I mean, I was just talking to Mr. Roach from Notre Dame the other day about his winter break, and his basketball team was in the playoffs. They lost on Saturday, and spring sports started the day before.
Oh my God.
So he got no break.
Yeah.
So that's the overlap. The seasons overlap, and even if you're playing games at 4 o'clock, or even if you have practices after school at 4 o'clock, as an athletic administrator, you're going to have to be there, because if you're not, you're going to be dealing with the problem the next day, and it's just a lot easier if you're there.
So what drives people like yourself to do the job? Is it just the love of the job, or is it the money that comes with it, or what is it?
I think it's it's nice if you do get paid well, and when I first got into it, we weren't getting paid well at all, but it's changed a little bit. But I think you do have to love what you're doing. Yeah. If you love high school sports, which I do, I'm still involved in it, and my son's playing. It's a lot of fun. I think it's pure. When you get into college and pro, you're talking money, you're talking all kinds of issues there. Whereas high school, these kids love what they're doing, and you can still teach them the fundamentals. And I think that's what drove me. I just liked seeing the smile on a kid who made a good move, or felt good about himself out on the field or on the court or on the ice, whatever it may be. And as an athletic administrator, I tell my coach, I told him all the time, you have to be the AD of your sport, because even though people might think I know everything about every sport, you're not going to know the ins and outs of. It's impossible to know every single sport.
And the rules and regulations.
Right. That's why you need to hire effective coaches that are good teachers and can do a good job of expressing all that, and that's why it's important that they meet with the parents and outline their expectations.
And do you do the hiring of all the coaches? So
yeah,
you find everybody. So you're out there actively looking for these coaches when you're the AD.
Yes, yeah, and that's another big job. You have to make sure you have a nice recruitment base that you can get people in, and again, you want to make your school or your community attractive, so you can attract those coaches. You want to have a nice facility. You want to have teams that compete, and that's not always easy to do. I know when we started lacrosse, which was, I'm going to say 5, 6, 7 years ago at Lawrence, it was tough to compete with the Princetons and the Hopewells because they've had it for 30 years. Yeah. So the CVC, of which we were in, the Colonial Valley Conference, did a nice job of tiering the programs. So we didn't play those powerhouses. You started off playing the ones that were just beginning, like the Hamiltons and Nottinghams and Steiners that just had beginning programs like we did. And that helps build the program.
Yeah. So now you don't go to college thinking that you're going to be an athletic director. No. You're going to school really to become a teacher?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's how I started out the undergrad. Yeah, I wanted to be a teacher.
When's the mindset changed to I want to be a supervisor of either a principal or an athletic director? Is it in late years of college, or is it when you're already working for 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, I when I was going to college, I wasn't thinking to be an athletic director. I guess it was probably maybe more like 10 years in teaching and coaching, because in your summers, if you're teaching and coaching, you're still got to find some type of employment in the summer because you're not getting paid as a teacher. So, and if you're coaching, you're really not getting paid then either, but you're still doing camps or whatever with the kids. So I used to have a painting business with my brother. Worked on the beach for a while because we lived at the shore. So after a while, you just got kind of tired of trying to find that summer employment.
Yeah.
So that's why I went back to get my master's, because I know that there were some openings for 12-month positions in administration.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I would say finance was part of it. Sure, you want to make more money. But then when I got the job at Hamilton, it wasn't 12 months. The AD job was only 9 months. But I still found myself there in the summer because, you start football and soccer in July, August, so you have to be there checking in the uniforms and making sure everybody has a physical and things like that. So it's tough. And you see that around the state now, too, that some of the AD jobs are getting cut back due to budgets. And it's a problem because then nobody's there.
Now, does the athletic director or any of those supervisorial positions, do they get assistance? Do they get some help?
Some do, but I know a lot. I know a couple of people right in Mercer County don't even have a secretary. I was lucky in Lawrence to have a woman, Cindy Dunn, whose kids played for us. They went through our football program, her 2 sons, and they actually played in college. So she knew the sports. And that helped me a lot as an AD. And she could, answer the phone, take that, talk to them about it. If it was a parent had a question, something that I didn't have to deal with that she knew, that was huge. And she was 12 months. So Lawrence did a nice job of that with having a secretary. But a lot of schools don't, or they're 10 months. So the AD's there all summer. And it can be time consuming, just checking in equipment and make sure everything's organized, and for the coaches to pick it up. And then if there's a problem with a purchase order, if you don't have a secretary there, then the AD is going to have to roll up their sleeves and do it.
So now you're retired, but with all the things that you're saying, that you're working with the state of New Jersey, you're working at another school, are you actually retired, or there's just extra things that you do on the side?
Yeah, I would think. I don't have to get up first thing in the morning and go check into the school. Not right now. But yeah, I'm involved with the state. I'm actually a leadership training coordinator, which I was telling you a little bit about that certification program, and we're actively teaching these courses to young athletic administrators. Right. And we have a nice group, probably 15, 20 ADs that have only been involved maybe 2-3 years. Wow. That want to get more knowledge, and they want to get better at what they do, and I think that's great. That means they want to stay in it because, I know that at the end of this year, I've been hearing that there's a lot of ADs that getting to like where I was with 30 years, 35 years in, the age is there, they're retiring. So there's going to be probably anywhere from 6 to a dozen openings around the state. Wow. And there's just not a big pool of knowledgeable people to take their place. So I think that's going to be a problem down the road. So I'm hoping that these courses that the DANJ is putting together, and we're actually running one down in Atlantic City in a couple weeks, will help keep these young guys interested, young guys and girls. Because you see a lot of women coming in now. I know West Windsor hired a female from Rancocas. She's doing a great job. I think that's awesome because you see a different side of it. Mm-hmm. And she was a very good coach, so I know she's helping out build their programs. Well, she's got to run 2 schools. She's an AD of 2 schools, West Windsor North, West Windsor South. Oh, my God. That's a huge job.
So someone like that, they don't give just one AD to each school. There are schools out there that AD might have 2 schools. Yeah, I've been hearing that. I know down the shore you got Middletown North and South, 1 AD. Toms River schools have 3, 1 AD. So yeah, you have to have a good secretary, or what I see the trend is for some of these schools now is to hire site people. And that's what I was doing a little bit at Notre Dame. That I was working some of the wrestling for them this winter, and I think if you can't be there, then I think you have to delegate to people that know. And I think in a district where they're trying to expect the AD to maybe be there every night, it's theoretically it's just not possible. Yeah, it's just too many hours. So they have to have good delegation, duties, authorities, or help. So it's good.
Yeah.
So retirement is good for you then?
Yeah, I like it. I'm coaching a little bit, but I'm also involved in as being an official. And I just think it gives you a chance to step back and, I always like being around the kids. And I just, it's funny that I came back to it. I stayed away for a couple months. I went to Vermont, went skiing for a week. Went down to Florida for a while, visited my parents. So I did take some time off.
Good.
But I just don't see myself sailing into the sunset yet.
Okay.
I just, I like doing things with sports.
Well, we're coming to the end of our show. So basically what I usually ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents out there for their sons and daughters that might be wanting to go into teaching or coaching and things like that at the college level? What advice do you want to give them?
I think you have to want to be involved in sports. You have to love sports. You don't necessarily have to pick the sport that you played, because a lot of times, the big sports are football, basketball, and baseball. But typically when you try to get into those sports, there's people that have been in those jobs for a long time, and they're usually the big three in any school. So it's hard to get into those. So my advice would be well-rounded. If you want to be a teacher, as far as I'm concerned, a teacher can teach any subject. As long as you're organized, you have done your research. It's just like if you're taking, a foreign language course for the first time. You don't know that curriculum. You don't know what you're doing, but good students research it. They study it on their own, and then they put that practice into to a test. And I think that's how I did it. I only played a couple sports. I was, like I said, I was a soccer player. I swam a little bit because I worked on the beach, and I ran some track. But I wasn't a star by any means. I played on a couple really strong teams where I had a lot of really good players. Like Neshaminy was off the charts. They had the Barr brothers, Walter Barr, who coached at Penn State for years. I played under all those guys. Matty Barr, who kicked for the Giants. He was one of my teammates. So I think I learned a lot from those guys, watching how hard they worked and how good they were at teaching other kids and just working with people. And I think that's important. If you do your homework and if you love what you're doing and you show an interest and you're dependable, you'll be fine.
Good. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.